We have had very little rain this year. In fact, I've spotted back in January that it was actually much drier than it normally is. So every month since then we've had a lot less rain than we would normally get. Now, our worry is that this is going to impact on the crops, and we need the rain to sort of fatten up the apples and fatten up the potatoes before we harvest them. But I'm pleased to say that maybe one or two of my fears are misplaced. We planted this Bramley apple tree a few years ago on our far side plot, and this is the first year it's actually had any decent quantity of fruit. And as you can see, the apples are fattening up quite well. So not everything is as bad as we feared. Now, that tree's doing well, and I've noticed that other fruit-bearing trees are doing well in terms of numbers of fruit, but when it comes to their actual size, unlike that Bramley apple tree, when it comes to the size of the fruit, then we're going to have some concerns, as we have with this tree here. This apple tree is well established. It's been here for decades, well before we got this plot, and it normally has a reasonable quantity of fruit, but good sized apples on it. This year it seems to have loads and loads of apples, but they're all rather small. So these are more like crab apples. As you can see, they are rather small, and this tree is covered in apples, but we really could do with them being a lot bigger than they are. Now we're due for rain tonight, so with a bit of luck, by the time it comes to harvesting the apples on this tree, they've fattened up, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Alright, these are elderberries, and they are very early this year, so they are ripening sooner than we'd normally expect. Typically I'd be picking elderberries in the autumn. There's still another month and a bit to go before we get to autumn, but as you can see, great big bunches of berries, and some of them are starting to ripen. In a sense, we've been lucky up here in the northeast, because we're not officially into drought conditions, but it has been very warm and dry, so it has had an impact. But on some things it may have been a beneficial impact, but on others I think the jury's still going to be out. So my big concern is that potato crop and that apple crop, because potatoes are part of our staple diet, and the apples form a large part of the feed that we use for the goats, and obviously we're trying to experiment to see if we can use them for the chickens as well. So it may well be that there's a lot of rain tonight, but it won't be enough to fill up the right reservoirs and the ponds. That's still got a long way to go before that problem can be solved. So we'll just have to see how the weather, or what sort of deal the weather is going to give us, and hopefully, I know I'm a small sport by saying this, but we need a good quantity of rain and this hot weather to end. Something else that's early for this part of the world are the blackberries, and there's lots of them, and they're ripening quite early. 50 years ago, when I was a wee nipper, in the autumn term at school, half term was always known as potato picking week or blackberry week. because that was what was picked in the middle of October. Now the potatoes and the blackberries are all picked well before half term now, and I've noticed over the decades how much sooner the cropping takes place this year, and how much sooner particularly the blackberries have ripened. It's all part of climate change, and we're going to have to try and mitigate that. I'll leave that to the experts to be able to tell us how to do that, but we try our best in terms of living in a sustainable way to try and avoid having a negative impact on the environment. Can't avoid all negative impacts, but our lifestyle is geared to trying to reduce the damage that we do to the environment, and if we can do it, anybody can do it.